Hey, it's John Davis with Linehaul Central, and I want to talk a little bit about speeding and the new VEDR AI calculations. And basically, the experience we had from October and how we handle the speeding element and what's really going on. We had a lot of different questions that came up this last month on the contract speed versus actual speeding and handling the speeding events. And it was, quite frankly, it was a mess. With the AI being turned on in October, we went from a few hundred events a month to thousands of events a month. And it took a lot of time for us to go through and actually review the videos and dispute videos and work with the VEDR vendors to try to figure out how are you calculating this and what's going on. So this video is going to be a little longer, but hopefully it'll give you some insight on everything that I saw and my team saw going through this in October. The first thing that came up a lot from the managers to us was we were identifying speeding events that were above the contract speed. So just everyone is clear on this video, the contract speed is 65 miles per hour. That's what your truck should be governed to. And what most contractors do, they set the governing to 65 miles an hour on the pedal and then 68 miles an hour on the cruise. I think that's perfectly fine to do that. If it's anything higher than that, if it's 70, over 70, I've seen problems with that, especially when there's a crash involved. So if you keep it at the 65 on the pedal and 68 on the cruise, you should be okay on this. The real issue came to where we would identify speeding events inside the VEDR system that some of them were like 83 miles an hour. And you're going, oh my God, a tractor with 2 trailers on it shouldn't be doing 83 miles an hour. So when we identified those, the owners would come back and push back on us and go, my trucks are governed to 65 miles an hour. There's no way my truck was doing 83. Yeah, there's a way. It happens a lot. One of the things that they say is they must have been going downhill, that they took it out of gear and went downhill and they're going that fast. That's not what we were seeing last month. What we were seeing last month was the driver is on flat ground and the truck is going that fast. So then you got to ask yourself, how is that possible? And they affectionately call it the diesel doctoring of the governing, where they have a brother, an uncle, a friend, or mechanic, somebody that takes the governing off the truck, and then they're able to go to that speed. When you're getting those type of notifications, you need to really look at the video and see what's going on with it. And is the driver on flat ground? It's not acceptable, even if they're coming downhill, to be doing in excess of 70 miles an hour in one of these trucks. I, as a safety professional, will tell you that it's not all that safe to be driving 65 miles an hour in an 80 mile an hour zone like in New Mexico and out west and parts of Texas and all. That's just my opinion on that, but we've got to follow what the contract states, and the contract states that our trucks must be governed at 65 miles an hour and keep it in there. So look at your videos. Are they on flat ground? Then you got to ask yourself if it's on flat ground or what's going on with this tractor. Has the governing been taken off? Do I need to get it back into the shop, get it reset, make sure that it's done? That's what you, as the owner of the contract, must do, is make sure that your trucks are meeting the contract speed. Going, yeah, I haven't had any problems with it. Nobody has told me anything about this. No, nothing's going on. Here's where you get caught. So I'll give you an example that turned out pretty rough. A driver was driving during the day, driving 71 miles an hour, and rear-ended a vehicle in the middle of the interstate. It was snowing that day, and hit a county vehicle that was clearing the roads. And At the time of the crash, they were doing 71 miles an hour. So we turned in the VEDR video like you're supposed to do, and it was listed on the video that at the time of the crash, the driver was doing 71 miles an hour. The contractor got a preventable accident, rear-ended another vehicle in broad daylight, so that was deemed a preventable accident. So you had all those points on your safety results summary report. Then it got interesting. It got moved up to safety and legal about, wait a minute, this truck is over contract speed. It's 71 miles an hour. And so then what happened is there was an audit of the entire fleet. And that audit resulted in looking at every single truck. It was dicey there for a little bit to go, okay, are they going to pull my contract over this? And what Linehaul really wanted was compliance with the contract. We're telling you, your trucks better be governed at 65 miles an hour, and you had a crash that was at 71 miles an hour. We got a problem. You need to fix this problem. And that's where the issue came in on all that. So it was dicey. It was a dicey situation to go through this situation, but I've seen this happen a couple of times, and I want to make you aware of that. There's another way that you can get caught. You've had these speeding events and I didn't have any access, no one knows. Yeah, there's GPS tracking on those trailers. And so those trailers can report back to Linehaul to say, let's do a quick spot check of contractor X, Y, and Z. And they'll run a report for the previous month or 2 months or 3 months and go, tell me how many times the trailers that this contractor transported were doing over the contract speed. And they'll just spit out a report. I had one contractor that went through that, and they had 1,200 speeding events in 1 month. And again, an audit came in about, you've got to follow the contract. Take speeding seriously when you are looking at these VEDR events. It's one of those situations that you could lose your contract over this because you're not playing by the rules. I get this also a lot, where a contractor is playing by the rules. I have my trucks governed, and all the other contractors in my hub don't have their trucks governed, and their trucks are passing us on the road every day, and this is ridiculous. Don't worry about it. That's them. You have to survive your world, your contract. Don't worry about what the others are doing. And that's them. If they get caught, I told you 2 different ways that they're going to get caught doing that, and they're going to pay the consequences of that. They'll either be moved out of the system for non-compliance, or it's going to catch up to them. That's what has been going on a lot with the discussions with our contractors about contract speed and why after my driver so much. This is why. This is serious stuff that can be a real problem for a contractor. So now let's talk a little bit, I'm switching gears now, on what the camera is reporting and what is in actuality. So again, I would have owners contact me and go, you're dinging me on all these speeding events and the camera is not calibrated properly. Okay. So we did a lot of that this last month too, where we went, okay, let's take the data from the camera, then let's take the data from the ELD and see what happened. We did that multiple times throughout the month and generally found a 1 mile per hour difference between the camera and the ELD. So now we have 2 pieces of information that states that, all right, the driver was going at a certain speed, at least within 1 mile an hour. We have some incidents where we were disputing events. They were saying that their camera was doing, let's say, 70 miles an hour. And we did have some situations, a couple of them, not many, just a couple of anomalies where the camera was stating that the driver was doing 70, but the ELD said they were doing like 68. Then there is a discrepancy there. When you're thinking about that and you're doing disputes, and I hope you are doing disputes on every single event that you can do. And even if you are passing your KIs, you are doing a disservice to the organization as a whole by not disputing events under the KI limit. And let me see if I can explain that a little clearer. Let's say you on speeding, you're at half the KI. I'm passing this month. I don't have a problem, but half of those under that you have are disputable speeding events. If you don't spend the time to dispute those, you are not helping the VEDR vendor get better, and you're not helping the camera get better, and you are doing a disservice as a whole to the entire organization by not disputing those events. Even though hey, I'm passing, I've got this covered and all that. If you are not disputing those events, you're not helping out the entire organization, which will come back to be a problem for you. Spend the time, learn how to dispute in your VEDR about events that you think shouldn't be a KI event and shouldn't be on your record. Here's how we were doing disputes in the last month and then into November. So remember that there are two triggers for Linehaul. Trigger number one is I'm going over contract speed. So that's anything over 70 miles an hour. So some of the VEDR vendors have it at 70 miles an hour and some of the VEDR vendors have it at 75. The idea is going to the next part, which is 10 miles an hour. If the contract speed is 65, the maximum can be 75. But what we're seeing in actuality is with some of the VEDR vendors, it is over 70 miles an hour. So let me be clear on that. Is one of the events that is against you on the KIs is something that is over contract speed, meaning 70 plus miles an hour. And where does that become an issue? Is your driver's in a speed zone of 70 miles an hour or 75 or 80 miles an hour out west. They're not speeding, but they're over the contract speed. So that will be a KI event that would be against you over that contract speed. So that's number one. Number two is 10 miles over the speed limit. So that's everything under 70 miles an hour. So don't worry, you're talking about the ones that I said in the beginning of this video of 83 miles an hour. That's over contract speed. That's definitely a KI event. So now we're starting to talk about the events that are, and we see a lot of these, 45 mile an hour zone, the driver's doing 55. And this is just rampant out there where we're seeing that they're going through a town, they're going through whatever, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's no traffic, and boom, they're doing 55 and a 45. And then that will be a KI event. And you get in these situations where they're that high and a driver can get multiple of those events in one shift. So these are going ding, ding, ding. We've seen 5, 6, 7, 8 in one day for a driver. And you don't have that much math to work with on surviving your KIs. So you got to talk to the drivers. You got to get on it. You got to look at this stuff every day. You got to make sure that it's a valid event. It's a lot of work. It really is. It's just a ton of work. You got to look every day. You got to make sure that the event is valid. You got to look at the video. You got to try to figure out what's going on. Do I have a governing problem? Do I have a speeding problem? Do I have a contract speed problem? I got to do the dispute. I've got to write up the dispute. I've got to do all this stuff to do this. But that's where we are right now. This is what you have to do. And again, even though you may be passing your KIs, you still have to do the disputes so that the data is accurate for the organization as a whole. So this gets better and better. When you're dealing with all this and you're talking to your drivers, obviously coaching drivers and talking to them, if you have a contract speed problem, meaning that your truck was supposed to be governed at 65 but they're doing 70 miles an hour or 72 miles an hour, you got to talk to your drivers. And drivers that consistently have problems with this, you got to discipline those drivers. And that's just it. Your contract's up for grabs if you don't get the driver under control and tell them, I tell them, why is this important? The why, if you keep speeding like this and you're over contract speed, we could possibly lose our contract, and this is going to happen. And the driver goes, I'm just getting another contractor. They speed at that contractor, the same thing's going to happen. So they're just going to get to the point where it's an issue. The other way I coach drivers about speeding is I take the approach that Linehaul is the evil empire. Not really, but this is how I say it. If a driver gets a speeding violation, let's say it's 15 miles over the speed limit, you might get a terminal manager that'll allow carry-up training the first time. Maybe. Some terminal managers are taking a hard stance on this and they're going, I'm disqualifying that driver. Safety disqualified. They're out. They're done. They can't go to another contractor. They can't do anything because they got this speeding ticket. And so that's what I tell them. Is it's not like, I'm not telling them, if you don't do this, my contract's going to say, that's not going to work. So I just tell them, if you are speeding and you get caught speeding and you get a ticket and you can't go to court, or you don't go to court and fight that ticket and win it or whatever, you must, more than likely you are going to get disqualified from Linehaul, and then you're out. It's just the easiest way for them to understand that this is serious, and I can't tell you how serious I'm not following the contract speed that this is for your contract. Now, the other things that you can talk to your drivers about, according to the FMCSA, 32% of crashes are the result of excess speed. That's excess speed for conditions like it's raining and traveling too fast, or in rain or snow or wind. It's speeding over the speed limit, and about 8% of those crashes are fatality crashes. So we see that when all the crashes we handle throughout the month, it's speed is the number one factor we're seeing. We see drivers that have accidents when it's raining, that the truck gets up on top of the water and it hydroplanes. Yes, these trucks can hydroplane. And we see just speeding as a whole is the problem. So keep that in mind. Is statistics are telling you that speed is leading cause of commercial truck crashes, and we want our drivers to come home. That's it. That's really what we want, is to make sure that they are safe and make sure that they come home every night and that they are following the rules and all that. I know I covered a lot in this video. Save it and go through it. I highly encourage you, even though you're passing your KIs, to do the disputes for all the VEDRs that you can dispute. The better as a group of contractors that we can get to making sure that the data is correct. The better vendors get, the better that we operate on behalf of Linehaul and giving them cleaner and better data, and the better everybody will be going through this AI change. I hope this helps. I'm here if you need me. Reach out, ask any questions. Thanks a lot.